urgent. Trump breaks federal law, hides explosive documents, and sparks international wars as America collapses. Shocking numbers reveal the worst president in history. Stay till the end. Welcome to another video. If you enjoy the content, please subscribe to the channel. Look, let's get straight to the point because what's happening with Donald Trump right now is historic, and not in the way he'd like. The latest Gallup numbers show Trump's approval has dropped to 36%. The lowest of his second term, and dangerously close to that awful 34% he hit after the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Think about it. 60% of Americans disapprove of how he's handling the presidency. This isn't just bad, it's catastrophic for any politician. And here's what really scares Trump's team. Even Republicans are jumping ship, with approval dropping to 84%, the worst among his own party in the entire second term. But wait, it gets worse. Among independents, only 25% approve of his job, which is basically a record low. And Democrats, well, just 3% still have any approval, meaning Trump has managed to unite the entire political spectrum against him. Now, why is this happening? The economy, folks. Only 33% of Americans approve of how Trump is handling economic issues, the lowest since he took office for his second term. And this is especially troubling because Trump made the economy his flagship campaign promise. He vowed to lower prices, control inflation, create jobs. But the reality on the streets tells a completely different story. Approval on cost of living issues has fallen to just 27%. That's devastating. What really strikes me is the total disconnect between what Trump claims and what Americans actually feel. While he's at Mar-a-Lago declaring that he's crushing inflation and prices are dropping tremendously, 7 out of 10 Americans describe the country's economy as poor. And look, when you're losing even your own supporters, approval among Republicans on his healthcare handling dropped from 68% to 59%. You know there's a serious problem. Now let's talk about something that should be about transparency, but has turned into yet another controversy: the Epstein files. The Department of Justice started releasing thousands of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein on Friday, but an NPR analysis shows that more than a dozen files available on Friday disappeared by Saturday afternoon. Among them, a document showing a photo of President Trump at a table among several other photographs. Let me be clear about what this means. The Epstein Files Transparency Act gave Attorney General Pam Bondi 30 days to publish all unredacted records on Epstein, and that deadline expired on December 19th. But what did we get? An NBC News analysis found that over 680 pages of documents were completely redacted. This isn't transparency, it's the exact opposite. And here's the cruel irony you couldn't make up. Trump amplified conspiracy theories about the Epstein files during the campaign, promising to release information on the financier's crimes and connections to powerful people he claimed were being covered up by the government. He said he'd expose everything. But once in power, Trump fought efforts by lawmakers and even his own supporters to release these files, calling Republicans demanding transparency stupid. The congressmen who sponsored the law are furious. Representatives Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie said the initial release doesn't comply with the legislation, citing redactions and missing material. And look, when you have a Democrat and a Republican united in the same criticism, you know something's seriously wrong. Khanna himself was blunt. They're exploring all options to get full disclosure. What really worries me is the pattern here. Some files posted on the site were deleted without explanation, only to be restored hours later. Why would that happen? Who's making those decisions? And most importantly, what exactly don't they want us to see? When you promise transparency and then deliver censorship, you're basically admitting you have something to hide. Now let's move to foreign policy, because while Trump is dealing with crises at home, he's creating new ones abroad. Trump ordered large-scale attacks on ISIS in Syria on Friday, a week after 2 American soldiers and an interpreter were killed in the city of Palmyra. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was dramatic, declaring, "This isn't the start of a war, it's a declaration of vengeance." Now look, I completely understand the need to respond to attacks on American forces. No one's questioning that. But the operation was described as hitting 70 targets in central Syria areas using F-15 fighters, A-10 attack aircraft, and Apache helicopters. It's a massive show of force in a country where the situation is already extremely complicated. What worries me is the timing and context. Some observers noted that the Syria attacks happened on the same day the Trump administration released some of the Jeffrey Epstein-related files. Coincidence? Maybe. But when you're facing the worst approval ratings of your term and scandals piling up, overseas military strikes have a convenient way of dominating the headlines. And then there's Venezuela. Trump announced that the United States seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, describing it as very large, the biggest ever seized, actually. And this wasn't isolated. It was the second known instance of the U.S. intercepting a ship near Venezuela this month. The administration is calling it combating drug trafficking and sanctions, but listen to what Trump said. You remember, they took all our energy rights. They took all our oil not long ago, and we want it back. So really, what's this about, drugs, democracy, or oil? Senator Chris Van Hollen was direct. This shows their whole story that this is about intercepting drugs is a big lie. This is just more proof that it's really about regime change by force. And while Trump is provoking international conflicts and dealing with Epstein controversies, what's happening to ordinary Americans? They're suffering. 7 out of 10 Americans describe the country's economy as poor, but Trump keeps insisting we're in an economic golden age. It's an insult to people's intelligence. Trump's approval on cost of living issues dropped from 31% to 27% early in December. People can't afford rent, food prices are high, and he's tweeting about prices dropping tremendously. Trump has denied that rising prices are squeezing Americans, calling concerns about affordability a hoax perpetrated by hostile media coverage and Democratic rivals. The most alarming thing is that only 3 out of 10 adults approve of Trump's handling of the economy, healthcare, or the federal government. And this was during the longest government shutdown in U.S. history, which finally ended on November 12th after causing widespread chaos. Now, I mentioned something important at the start, the comparison to other politicians. Look at North Carolina, where currently 42.8% of Americans approve of the job Trump is doing and 54% disapprove. Meanwhile, local politicians like Governor Josh Stein have approvals in the +30 range. The message is clear. The farther you are from Trump,